Welcome back to the third episode of the Battle Brothers Iceberg. Enemies cheat with fatigue. Do they? Short answer is no. No, they don't. Enemies are programmed to have 20 fatigue recovery per turn. No cheating. Chance to hit head. First you make a roll to hit the enemy. If it lands, then you make a roll for the critical hit. The base critical hit chance is 25%. On top of that, you can add whatever modifiers you have, such as weapons, traits, perks, and backgrounds. Cultist Fight. This is something that might happen if you trigger the Religious Peasant event. You have about a 1 in 3 chance of fighting 25 angry cultists armed to the teeth with daggers and flails as if they were freshly rebirthed out of the fire of Davkul. Initiative. Oh boy, here we go. So, initiative has been debated over many of forums and Reddit posts by players as whether to consider this stat actually important. Some initiative builds, for example, are Fencers, Fearsome Gunners, Overwhelm Archers, and Overwhelm Dagger users. Initiative can passively work quite well with the Dodge perk, giving you a boost to melee defense and ranged defense. However, this perk slot could probably be used for something else by just speccing into melee defense right off the bat instead of going through initiative in the dodge perk. That's kind of convoluted, to be honest. Just go straight for the melee defense. Why? Also, if you're getting dodge, you're probably getting relentless. So that's 2 perk slots that you're using.
でもいいボーイ、敵より先に動けるならイニシアチブも捨てたもんじゃないよ。
Shut up, Billy-kun. No one wants to hear about speccing into initiative to go before the enemy when you could have adrenaline do it for you. The majority can agree that initiative is generally, outside of certain kind of builds, not as important as melee skill, melee defense, and hit points. As well as fatigue and resolve and range skill. That's all of them. Two-handed flails. Now the listed entry says two-headed flails, but this iceberg isn't shy for its spelling errors, and I looked, but nothing came up. So hang me if I'm being dumb about this one. The two-handed mace and sword are better suited for AoE attacks, and the two-handed axe hits harder. So maybe the two-handed flail isn't a late-game weapon, but it's definitely fun crushing some skulls.
Skulls for the skull throw!
Enemy infinite ammo. Now the throwing weapons are limited, but the bow and crossbows are, in fact, unlimited. What does reputation do? Absolutely nothing. If you have less than 80, which isn't that hard, you can take up a mission during the Noble War Crisis to take out a location, attached location, to a settlement controlled by a rivaling faction. If you're playing the Oathtaker origin, then your men might have a mood boost from the event Happy with the Company if you have more than 80 reputation. However, the opposite effect might happen if you have less than 40 reputation. That could be the most dreadful bastard or the holiest of saints, and none of it will matter in the eyes of Davkul. I mean, the devs. Davkul? 95% misses. Yes, this is a thing. You should know this already if you've played even a bit of Battle Brothers. And if you haven't played it yet, and if you're planning on playing it, then apologize to yourself in advance for all the absolute BS that you're going to be subjecting yourself to. There's even a Reddit post dedicated to this, where players have come to share their most ridiculous RNG silliness. I'll post a link in the description so you can go there and see that you're not the only one. May the souls of our fallen brothers bring solace to your heart. Krakens on the world map. So, Krakens do spawn after the final Stone Pillars event. You'll find them in the marsh, and their tracks will look something like this. The very first time you fight the Kraken, it's simply called the Beast of Beasts. But after the second time, they get these Lovecraftian names befitting to their tentaclish manifestations. Some of them being Zashutur, the Eater of Worlds, the All-Ender, Gushog, the Thousand-Armed Shagarth, the Unending, Ta'aflu, the Old-Ender, Og Satoth, the Grand Devourer, the All-Reaching, Bing-Chiling, the Far Eastern Chanter, Kitan Nehitil, the Gorger of Glaoth, the Endless Maw, Nakarath, the Eternal. Alp in the Hole. This is an event that occurs when you've reached 30 days in the campaign and when traveling off-road or off the snow. You can come across a group of men doing business by showing their captured Alp. You can choose to leave them alone, kill the Alp, or let the Alp live. If you kill it, you'll get in a fight with the men, and you will end up with a handful of cash, but your brothers would suffer light wounds. If you choose to let it live, then some of your brothers who have the superstitious trait, or some backgrounds such as the Beast Slayers, they would kind of get angry. If you let the Beast Slayer brother handle the situation, then you'll again get a handful of cash and also a parched skin. Alp Patches. Oh boy, has this one gotten people riled up. So the original Alps used to cast Sleep as an AoE attack, and brothers were supposed to be provided with a resolve check to resist sleep, but for some reason, this check was either too steep or it simply didn't work because brothers were falling asleep left and right without any way of reliably waking them. So these issues were thrown at Overhype, and in my opinion, they did a good job responding. It was just a little late, and they could have done better. The reason I say this is because the Alps that were brought back to the game after all the feedback was effectively worse than the original. Now, they spawn Nightmare Shadows, which did melee skill attack for some reason, forcing the brothers to use their melee defense to defend themselves instead of their resolve. Many people were confused as to why the Alps, who are known to attack you psychically, were now punching through your armor like any regular brigand. To prevent the Alps from swarming an ally with shadows, a player had to get a brother to engage in melee with the Alp. However, the Alp were programmed to run away from the battle anytime a brother got too close to them, making the battle even more tedious and prolonged than it had to be. And on top of the neglect for lore continuity, the Alp fight gameplay just became mental doo-doo compared to before the update, when it was only a minor brain fart among the other engaging enemies. Finally, the Alp rework took place, and this did the following. No longer spawning any shadows. Sleep spell, inflict the sleeping status effect, and no more AoE. Using the rally skill wakes up every ally within 4 tiles. However, in Legends, this is a 40% chance. The Nightmare spell of the Alps can be cast to targets with the sleeping effect. However, it inflicts damage that scales inversely with the resolve of the target. The new passability of the Alps allows them to move very fluidly across the battlefield. However, they are always engaged with your brothers. They're not running away. So this is the current form of the Alps, and it looks okay enough. But the anguish players had to endure because of these pale-faced bastards will never be forgotten.
Davkul.
So this is really extensive, and I'm gonna cover the bare essentials. Davkul is a god older than the old gods that are mentioned in the game, and he, or it, is the embodiment of death. Davkul demands sacrifices to its followers, and he would occasionally manifest using a bonfire as its conduit. Witches and other characters, mainly cultists, would speak of him in various events, but overall, Davkul is a niche god among the common folk. It has a dark realm of its own where monstrosities reside, and in some cases, such as the Necroservants, are speculated to have drawn their power from this dark dimension. It is also interesting to note that Davkul holds a symbolic nature of everything meeting its final end. Its religious hold over its many zealous followers is mostly derived from its brutal display of power and divinity. But the real reason why people from across the land, low or highborn, flock to Davkul may be due to the fact that many like those in real life are afraid of death. Davkul provides those in this world with the comfort that their death will have meaning and therefore their lives some purpose in the eyes of their god. Desert Unholds. Oh yeah, they exist. Here's a clip. No, you gotta be kidding me. By the way, Unholds come in 3 different colors: blue, green, and white. But sometimes they will come in the color of steel. We don't talk about that one. Named shields. Now, shields may not seem important at first, but trust me, as you get into the game, you're gonna need one of your tanks to have a sturdy shield when they go up against some pretty nasty late game locations. A good way to farm famed shields are to raid orc camps and undead locations where you might be able to find a orc warrior champion or a fallen hero champion. The reason behind finding orcs and undead to farm famed shields is because they can't drop famed armor and famed helmets, therefore increasing the chance of them dropping either famed weapons or, in this case, a famed shield. Goblin Punctures. Goblins. Gobbos. These guys can actually be deadly if you give them a blade to stick you with.
I'm gonna bleed you like a stuck pig.
Goblin Skirmishers after day 50 gain the Backstabber perk, and they get a significant damage increase in armor piercing of 25%. Not only is their frontline more likely to stick you like the pig you are,
Like a stuck pig.
even their backline ambushers start with 25% increase in armor piercing damage and then gain another 10% after day 180. The dagger they have, called the Notched Blade, can use the puncture skill at a decreased 15% chance to hit and 100% chance of armor piercing, meaning it completely ignores your armor. The one saving grace about this is that the double grip damage bonus is negated, but let's be honest, a critical hit from one of these green little bastards is a surefire way for one of your bros to get his name on the newspaper. Some builds recommended for taking out goblins are 2 ranged AoE bros carrying a war scythe, throwers, tanks with kite shields to soak up all the tension and fire, and finally, we have the fencer. However, some have pointed out that nibble builds are terrible against goblins because they just get shot to pieces, so I'm not really convinced about the fencer build. Although if you do have a fencer, then I guess you could turn the tables on them and stick them like a pig? Mansplitter, bro. The Mansplitter is a two-handed axe that hits like a truck, with 40% armor piercing and 160% armor damage. The reason why this thing is so good is because of the split man skill, in which the head and the body are both hit upon a successful hit roll. It can be looted from Orc Berserkers and Orc Warlords, and it can be found during the free Greenskin Prisoner event. Only problem with this is its insane fatigue cost. The only brothers that could effectively wield this needs either a large pool of fatigue or a fatigue neutral build. Picking up the Axe Mastery perk will definitely help with the fatigue problem. However, it is a bit unrealistic to expect a brother to be able to hold his own during a long battle with just this weapon. The Thing Easter Egg event. In this event, you'll find one of your brothers beckoning you towards him to come and check out what he and the rest of the brothers have found. Upon arriving a cave hidden under the snow, you see that the brothers are circled around this ice sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is open, and if you look closely, you can see that there is a dead body leaning against the wall of the cave. This body has its wrist slit open, and next to the body is a piece of garment, kind of like a cloak, something that would have been worn by someone at some point. From this cloak leads a blood trail to the aforementioned body, and then from there, out towards the exit of the cave. You, as the captain, gets really spooked by this whole thing and tells the rest of the brothers to exit the cave promptly. This is the exact scene that plays out in the 1982 John Carpenter version of The Thing. In Battle Brothers, there are other such neat little references to pop culture, such as the little map icon for the Beast Slayers being something that resembles Geralt from the Witcher series. Also, in an event where one of your brothers overcomes the fear of greenskins, you can find in the text a cheeky little nod to the first Predator movie.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Watermill. This is a legendary location that you can activate at any time. Once activated, you can go hunting for the Kraken. Upon defeating the Kraken and obtaining the blade of the legendary sword that you saw at the Watermill, you can then return to the Watermill and initiate a battle with the Reichgeist. The Reichgeist is the boss of this location, and it wields the reproach of the old gods. This mighty weapon zaps you with lightning, and it also hits a couple of bros at once. And this lightning damage, it completely ignores armor, gives you a direct 10 to 20 damage to your brother's health. The Reichgeist has 2 phases. The first is the physical phase. Nothing really special about it, he just has the magical sword. Upon defeating the first phase, he will then take on an ectoplasmic form and spawn 10 Geists in your vicinity. All attacks by the right Geist during his second phase ignores armor. Starting the battle alongside the right Geist are a couple of fallen heroes and 9 fallen betrayers. These fallen betrayers have a 90% chance of resurrecting, deals 25% more damage, and takes 25 less damage compared to the regular fallen hero. They even gain a stat boost in damage and melee skill after day 100. Now, Filthy Robot has done a walkthrough of this location, and according to him, it's best to take down the first phase of the right Geist after defeating the fallen betrayers, so as to not to face the 10 Geists that are spawned at the beginning of the second phase alongside the rest of the enemies. A tight formation around the banner is good for when you're fighting against the Geists, and a two-handed weapon such as maces, hammers, and axes are good to bring. After defeating the location, you are granted the legendary sword imbued with lightning. So go zap zap skeet skeet some goblins.
High five!
So, that does it for the third tier of the Battle Brothers Iceberg. I hope you enjoyed. And if you've stuck around this far, then I'd say kudos to you. Because dealing with Battle Brothers RNG is probably better for your mental sanity than actually sitting through this video. Thanks again for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one. Dewamata.